Hello, Oracles. How is everyone doing today? We saw a nice little bump in the market. We saw CPI data that came out. We'll dive into that in a moment. So definitely exciting to see the market kind of reacting to this. I just want to dive into it and show that we're coming down with inflation. This is great, but we're still high. You have to remember 6% inflation is still very high. So moving in the right direction. But yeah, just be cautious as to what we're seeing the market doing and reacting to this. What's going on, Karav? Yeah, and Karav shared some good numbers with us today as well. So we're going to dive into some of those numbers for deliveries, some inventory numbers that are going on over in Europe. So some great news over there. We got the insured numbers from China that came out. What is going on, everyone? Look at everybody on here. What's going on, Luke? What's going on, Dominic? Yeah, so we got the insured numbers. They beat expectations over in China. That's another great sign. So we saw a nice little bump in the stock today. Gort had shared out his lines of Gort. If you guys follow him over on Twitter, he's got the lines of Gort, which are great. And with the bump today, it almost seems like we may have a breakout, but it was only one day, so it's hard to say that it was an actual breakout. And looking at his lines, looks like we hit the very top of a downward trend that we've been on. And this is something we've talked about before, where we hit the top of that trend and we need a little bit more data to push us out of it. Previously, and other times, we've pushed out of it and then fallen back in. So it was a nice bump, but we'll see how it rolls. Karav, by the way, my record tweet, yes, 628 in Norway. Yeah. That was awesome. So Norway hit a record of deliveries over there. So we'll get into that. So lots of great numbers for deliveries coming out for Tesla recently. And again, when we're looking at competition like GM and Ford and having to shut down production lines that they have, they're not doing deliveries as expected. Lucid, Rivian, they're not delivering the vehicles like they thought. Meanwhile, Tesla is just scooping all of those markets up. So it's just things to pay attention to. What's going on, Roger? Let's see. We'll dive into the macro first, just so you guys can see what we're talking about here, and then I'm going to go into some gaps because I know that we wanted to go over gaps today as well. Let me see if I can get this share screen up here for you. All right, we'll get me off of here so you guys can see it a little bit better. Let's see. You know what? I'm going to do it this way. Yep. So Karav here, Tesla inventory in Europe plummeted to a new low of 1,265 listings, consisting of 684 Model 3s, 521 Model Ys, 26 Model S, and 34 Model X. Peak inventory was 4,612 listings, now down 72%. Tesla sales in Europe are exploding. So very good science here. Thank you, Karav, for sharing that with us. So, it's good to see these inventory numbers coming down. That was one of the areas of potential concern was over in Europe. Here we have the EV tax credit in the US, China coming down on prices significantly. We were seeing sales bumping up over there. They may end up cutting prices a little bit more in China. Don't know. But Europe was kind of sticky because they came down with the same prices that we had in the US. The problem in Europe was they didn't have the EV tax credit. So they theoretically were still paying a lot more money in Europe for those vehicles because we were getting the tax credit in the US. So now that we're seeing that they came down with the prices over there in some areas and we're seeing that moving, it's good to see. Let me see. We're going to do CPI. So CPI came in at, let me see here. I'll get this up for you. There we go. So CPI came in at 5.5% for the core, and the expectation and forecast was 5.5%. So it's good. And the previous was 5.6. So that was coming down. So one of the issues that I saw was, let me see, year over year was good too. So year over year, normal was the headline number. Previous was 6.4, forecast 6.0. We came in at 6.0. You guys were asking last night what I thought, and I'm like, it's so hard to tell. I was guessing 6.0 just because I had no better number to go with, and that's what we ended up hitting. But if we check out, Let me see. Month over month core CPI. Mm, Let me see. Here we go. So the month over month also came in at zero point 0.4. So that was right at forecast with a previous of zero point 0.5. But we have to remember that zero point 0.4 month over month still comes out to a 4.8% inflation on an annualized basis. So now if we look at investing CPI month over month, just a regular headline month over month number, we actually missed. Or did we? You know what? I saw a different number before. Either way, it's still a 4.4. We're still looking at a 4.8% annualized inflation. That's still high. It's better but it's not the deflationary numbers that we had seen previously. So coming down, but it's almost like we kind of reset and now we need to come back down again. Now, looking at PPI for tomorrow, we are looking at a year over year number forecast of 5.4%. Last month was 6. So tomorrow we could see that, turn. So if we're looking at, let's break out the charts here for Tesla. Where are we at here? That's not what I wanted. Where are we going here? I hate how it does that. Okay. So looking at the charts here for Tesla, so again, we saw this nice little bump here that kind of showed almost that little breakout move that we've got. And we closed at that 183. And again, it seems like we broke out, but we're still technically in this downward channel. So it's hard to tell where we are actually going to be. So I think tomorrow with the PPI data, that might be the indicator as to whether we're actually going to break out or if this was just a fake out breakout and a little bit of a bull fake, and then we're going to end up coming back down. Now we'll dive into the gaps that we have here. Actually, let me see what you guys are. You guys are having a nice little chat here. Let's go into this first. Gas prices in Germany are $7 a gallon. Wow. That was one of the things that was crazy. When I went to Canada for the first time, I saw the prices and I'm like, oh my gosh, those prices are really good compared to ours, not realizing that they were in liters and not gallons. Yeah, that was a shock to my credit card. Let me see. Yeah, and gas cars over there, but like I said, VW's got that announcement of the battery factory in Canada. So I don't know where they're going to go with that. Again, they're just starting production. Even if they move at Tesla speed and it takes them 2 years to get this thing up and running, that means that they're going to have a battery factory finally up and running by maybe 2025. So as you said, 2026 at the earliest is probably more realistic. It's going to be time. Tesla's obviously still way ahead of the game. That's one of the things that people don't think about is when Legacy Auto says, hey, we're going to do this, everybody thinks that, oh, they're going to do it. And that means tomorrow they're going to be up and running with production of whatever. It's like, no, they still need to break ground. They still need to go through all of this. And they have to do it in the legacy way, which is stupid slow. Uh, Well, Wilbur, it's great to see you in a position you can deliver encouraging news. I try to deliver at least realistic news. I don't like to add the extra fluff, or if it's negative, I don't want to be super negative. But if we have negative things, I want to be realistic about it. If we have positive things, I also want to be realistic about it. And today we realistically saw inflation numbers coming down, which is good. But it's still something to monitor. And seeing the nice bump in the stock price today, also good. And all the delivery numbers, really good. So yes, it's nice to have something good to share with you guys for sure. How do you make the gap show up like that? I'll take a look in there. There was a way. One of the settings in there says that you want to show the gaps, and I just clicked on that setting and it popped up. I was shocked when I saw it because I used to go into Yahoo Finance and have to like manually search for it. What's going on, Bobby? Yeah, BMW was shot, and I mean, I don't know where all the guys named Kyle are going to go buy their cars now because, all I know is that you guys tell me. Maybe it's just me, maybe it's because people talk about it, but when I'm on the highway and there's somebody riding my ass, and I don't drive slow. I'm doing 75, and if I'm passing somebody, that's fine. But every time there's a dude on my bumper, it's a BMW almost every time, and like they're in a rush to get by me. So you guys let me know if you guys have that same situation. And I mean, obviously there's others as well, but it's more often not it's a BMW. Let's see here. Yeah, so let me see if I can figure out how to do the show the gaps here. There, like I said, there was just a button, and it was such a long time ago, and I've screwed with all the settings on this, so I don't honestly know where I ended up finding it. Um, wasn't in there. It's just one of my random settings that I happened to find accidentally. Blanks. Nope, that's not it. Hmm. If I can figure out where it was, I will definitely share with you. But as of right now, it's not coming to me. Um, oh, maybe it was here. Drawings, chart settings. Show high, low, splits, dividends. Show gaps. There we go. Show candle gaps right there. So chart settings. If you guys are using Webull, it's chart settings. Just I just double clicked on the screen. So I guess if you have not a Mac, it'd be a right click, and just go to chart settings. Show candle gaps. Show 5 gaps. There it is. And that's the max is the 5 because that's what I wanted to see. So, oh, cool. Found that one. So now we'll take a look at the gaps here. So the gap below us right now is 146.41 is the most direct one below us. Below that's a tiny little one at 133.51. Below that is 122.63. And then below that is the 114.39. These were those gaps that we created on that massive run up that we had after we bounced off of 101.81. Again, I think all of these gaps will get filled. People give me crap for it all the time. I'm sorry, folks. It's looking at the macro, looking where we're at. Yes, we saw inflation hitting expectations today. It's still 6%. We still have to have the FOMC meetings. We still have to have interest rates going up, most likely. We're looking at a median rate of possibly 6% interest rates. We still have we still have 1% that we need to go up to get to that point. That's a lot. So I don't know if we're going to come down and fill these gaps prior to them finishing the interest rates, or if we're going to see it happen after they pivot. Either way, I think these will get filled. Now, when we start going back in time, we do have a gap above us at 257.50. Now, with this said, whether we fill those other gaps before we run up or not, based upon the information that Adam and I discussed, again, this is just historical data. I don't know if this is actually going to happen, but every single time the Fed has paused rates, we saw a massive rally. At that point, we might see this gap up to 262 get filled. There are no gaps above 262. That is the last one. I thought there were more. There are not. So at least this chart is not showing it. I dug into Yahoo Finance. I didn't see any. If you guys know of any, please do share. I have not seen any other gaps that go above 262. Now, with that said, it doesn't mean we can't go above that, but that gap is the last one above us to get filled. So you keep coming back in time, and we have to go all the way back to COVID times in 2020, and we start seeing these other gaps below us. I'm going to go slow because sometimes I go too far and it jumps all the way back to 2014. It's annoying. So here's this little gap down to 94.67. So again, if we fall back down to that 101, I'm going to pay attention to see if we're going to hit a double bottom and then recover from that and maybe never break below 100. If the macro economy becomes that bad, we break below 100, we have the gaps at 94.67, 81.87, 75.69. I'm hoping that this isn't going to jump because there is one that goes down to 57. And we jumped. Dang it. I hate when that happens. But it goes down. There's two. There's one at 59 and one at 57. So I'm just kind of stuck where it's at now. So I can't go back any further the way I want to. So I apologize. But those are the gaps that are below us. So hopefully that's helpful. And again, these are things that I don't know that they're going to get filled. We have spoken many a time. Gaps fill 9 out of 10 times. Those gaps are relatively old, but doesn't mean they can't get filled. Sometimes it takes years for gaps to get filled. It is a possibility. So for me, I do strongly believe that we're going to fill at least the gap down to 114. If we end up falling below that, then I'll start to pay attention to those other gaps below us. but that's just what I'm watching right now. Now, one thing to pay attention to, I don't know, there was a while back, and I just happened to see this. Um, Let me see, because somebody had got me into Mullen Automotive, and I made some decent money on it. It was a quick spurt recently where it ran up to like $4. Yeah, this spike right here. So I made a good little bit of money here. It wasn't major because it was so risky. I didn't want to put a lot in, but I made a good move. Sold it around the $3 mark, and of course now it's at 16 cents. But if you go all the way back in time, I didn't realize this for Mullen Automotive. They were a $1,200. Where is it? They were a $1,200 stock. Look at this, $1,225. This is insane. And they're 15 cents now. So just goes to show you that not every company has what it takes to last a long time. Let's see what else we got going in here. You guys are having a nice little conversation. Bobby, when are we hitting 250? I think it's going to happen. Personally, I think it's going to happen after the Fed pauses rates. When the Fed pauses, I think we will go up. We'll hit 250. We'll fill that gap at 262. We may even run and actually break through that $313 mark. Crazy to think that we might run up and break 313 and then fall back down all the way to 100. You may think it's crazy, but we just saw that happen recently from basically like August to December. We saw the stock completely crash. Actually, it was shorter than that. It wasn't even that long. When did we see that happen? Let's see. No. There we go. Yeah, so we were at 313 was September. So September we hit that 313 for the last time, and then only took 3 months for us to go all the way down to 100. So to think that we couldn't do it again is, in my opinion, just ignorant. And just you've got to be realistic to the fact that we could potentially run up massively to 313 or higher after the Fed pauses, and then when they pivot, could potentially fall back down to 100 again. It is a realistic possibility. Now, for those of you who are following things like that and maybe swing trading, that could be a super possibility to swing and make some massive gains on the top and bottom. But again, it's risky. But that's basically what I'm going to try to do in my IRA is just that. Now, let me see. Yeah, I gotta break into Q1 numbers. I got some time before that though, so I'm not gonna pay attention to Q1 numbers yet. Luke, bloody gaps. I know, but you know what though? If it weren't for the fact that we discussed them at that 313 mark and literally cleared every single one of them, you can't ignore it. Unfortunately, it's just one of those things. And again, it's one of those things that at least keeps your emotions out of it. You're still going to be upset because it's falling, but at least you can justify it because you're like, oh, okay, we've got those gaps. And it's not to say that because we have a gap, we have to fall. There's no specific reasoning behind it other than algorithms and market makers making sure that happens. But hey, technical analysis works because people follow technical analysis. And if people are going to follow technical analysis, then you might as well learn it because in the near term, that's what's going to matter. Long term, technical analysis means nothing. It's all about fundamentals, and Tesla dominates there. You guys are a riot. Let me see. Oh, this is a good question. When splits happen, do gaps split too? Yes. Yes, they do. So all those gaps that you saw that went down to 57, that was actually a gap at about the 175, 180 mark. That would have been the gap at that level. So yes, it splits as well. So whenever you have a split, everything, if you look back in the charts, all of the numbers are going to split automatically with it as well to show you split adjusted numbers. Otherwise, it's super confusing to try and look at. Inverse Bitcoin. And we saw that. And actually, if you guys, Chicken Genius had posted the other day that when SVB had their falling out, he's like, I can almost guarantee you that the banks are going to bail them out. Crypto may hit a double bottom and then bounce up, but they bailed them out almost immediately. So it didn't really create a double bottom at that 15,000 for Bitcoin. It bounced well before that. And then we saw it rocket today. It fell back a bit as the day went on. but shot right up today as well. What PE should Tesla be? Depends on who you're talking to. That's that's a question that the answer to that question is the reason why we see such a difference in price targets for a lot of people. A lot of analysts out there with different price targets are basing Tesla on whatever they think the future is going to hold, and the PE ratio is just that. The bears who are out there who are valuing Tesla as just an automotive company have a low PE, and they can be saying 15 to 20 maybe is the PE that they should be at. You look at some of these Uber bulls that are out there thinking about energy, Optimus, FSD, everything else that's going on. PE could be well over 100. You've got Amazon pushing over 100 with PE. Why can't Tesla do it when they have a much, they're earlier on in their S curve? Amazon is kind of pushing up towards the top of their S curve where Tesla's just beginning. So theoretically, Tesla should have a higher PE based upon that information. So for me, I'm looking at putting all of it together and saying, well, where is the average of everything? That's kind of what I try to do is look at the average of what everybody else is saying. Where's the median? So I'd say between 40 and 50 is probably on that conservative side of things for the PE ratio based upon the macro environment right now. So if we get into a bull market, PE could probably run well over 100 again, but we're not in a bull market. So based upon where we're at right now, somewhere between 40 and 50 seems to be relatively realistic. But the fundamentals are different now, Tim. The EPS supports higher prices, even with the PE compression. I agree, but even as Elon has said, in a macro environment, the macro environment that we're in right now, um, there could be a lot of things going on with the stock price that don't make sense. There's a lot of irrationality going on in the market, and it's going to be irrational in both directions. This is one of the things we have to pay attention to, and why keeping your emotions out and understanding how the market works, how the macro environment works is so vitally important, because when we're going to go through a time over the next year, year and a half, maybe even 2 years with big swings in the stock price, your emotions can be dragged up and down. All of a sudden, you're buying on FOMO, you're selling on FUD. You have no idea. Then all of a sudden, you're losing money. And guess who is taking that money from you? The people who are patient. The stock market is just a transition of wealth from the impatient to the patient. That's it. So if you learn and understand why the market is moving the way it's moving, even in these times right now, it's going to be even more vital because it's going to move irrationally in both directions. And when we're doing that, and the market makers understand the kind of market that we're in, they're going to intentionally push the stock price way higher than it would be or way lower than it would be. Just pulling those emotional strings intentionally to get people to just throw money in and just give it right back. Has this guy taken his delivery of his Model Y? I have not yet. My delivery date is May 1st to June 12th. And I've been pretty open about it. For me right now, looking at the macro environment, the fact that I don't need a car, I don't have a house to plug it in at home, it is going to be an extra expense for me versus actually saving me money. I want one, but I'd rather put my money in the stock and save it. It's just the wiser move for me to make with my finances right now. So I don't want to be that guy who is just saying I'm going to be buying one and never actually do it. I'm just trying to be as open and realistic with you guys as I can. I think it's just wiser to keep my money where it's at, and not put it in a vehicle. If the time comes and they tell me my delivery is ready, maybe I'll just, hey, take it. I've also had an opportunity that just got presented to me to go out and buy a van, very good priced van. I have been contemplating, and it's something I want to do when my son graduates, is live in a van and travel the country, and visit a lot of you guys. I've spoken with a lot of you where you live, and just, hanging out with you guys for a little bit, traveling all over. That is on my list to do, and I have an opportunity to potentially buy a van just for that. It will be a Tesla van when it's available. If that was available now, I would take it. The moment Tesla says, hey, we have these configurable vans that are up for pre-order, I'm going to be one of the first ones in line for that. It's not ready yet. So I may take this one and just live that. And maybe that's my expense. And maybe I push off the Model Y and maybe I never even get it. Maybe I just switch over to the van. Just where I'm at. Just want to be open with you guys about where I'm at with that. But man, I do want one. I just have to be wise with my money. Q1 EPS estimates are a joke. They are. I'm waiting because what ends up happening, for those of you guys who don't know, usually the last 2 weeks of every single quarter, all the analysts do all of their updates of their estimates anyway. So looking at the estimates now is just, it's not even worth it. Just wait till the last 2 weeks of the quarter, which are going to be, oh, actually, the next 2 weeks will be the last 2 weeks of the quarter. So yeah, the next 2 weeks, we'll start to see a lot of the estimates getting changed. Ah, man, time has flown. Yeah, so we'll see those over the next 2 weeks. We're going to see a lot of estimates coming in and adjustments being made, and then we'll go from there. And then April 2nd, we will get the delivery and production numbers for Q1. Won't earnings eventually dictate the stock price? Eventually, yes. In a normal bull market, it would do it. It would reflect almost immediately. When you're in a bull market and everything's just kind of moving in the upward manner, it's pretty standard. You're going to have your earnings. Did you beat? You're going to go up. Did you miss? You're going to come down. Sometimes you have that manipulation up and down just to kind of fake people out. But over the long term, it is always going to be it. That's one of the fundamental pieces you look at over the long term. So that's why one of the reasons I never like to gamble when it comes to, do I buy before earnings or anything, because you never know. There could be one little piece of information in there and be like, oh, all the numbers hit. They beat on EPS, they beat on revenues, they beat on guidance, but I heard Elon fart on the earnings call, so I'm going to sell the stock now. It's the craziest stuff. I never like to play that game, but yes, in the long run, eventually it will always, that will be it in the long run. But then in the long run, what do we think it's going to be? So if we're looking out 5 to 10 years, that's where all of a sudden, obviously the further out you go, the wider that gap is going to be on what we think earnings are going to be. And then you see price targets going wild all over the place. What's the reasoning behind gaps getting or needing to be filled? I had one explanation given to me, and it goes way back before computers were ever involved, because gap filling was a thing before algorithms. You think algorithms come in, the algorithms want to come down and fill those gaps because it's that space of, oh, no action happened here. We want to go down and fill that. That's the explanation now based upon algorithms. But if you go back before computers ended up coming and getting traded in here, you go to market makers. There was a lot more manipulation. It was easier. Well, I won't say easier, but it was a different world to manipulate the market back then. So what literally it was, you know, a guy's talking to his friend saying, hey, this stock is going to be really good. I think this company is going to be awesome. That friend doesn't end up buying in. The stock has a great earnings. They jump up. They create that gap because the stock price jumped up based upon those earnings. And that friend is like, dang, I wish I had gotten in. They happen to know a person in power who has a lot of money who can manipulate the stock. And they're like, could you bring it back down to that price? And they said, yep, that gap needs to get filled. We will bring it back down to that gap. And that's it. So that's just the real simplified version of it. But unfortunately, that's just kind of the way the gaps get filled. So nowadays with algorithms, they just go into the computers and say, all right, this is what's going to happen. Like you'll see, just ironically, just so weird that timing wise, right around the time we start hitting certain levels in the market, all of a sudden bad news starts to show up in the headlines. Why would bad news randomly start showing up in the headlines right around the time you would think the stock price might come down? Interesting. Then the further it comes down, the more bad news starts spiraling out of the media. Why is that happening? Why is it coming down? It's all the manipulation, and you can call it a tinfoil hat theory, but Jim Cramer himself has already told us that's the absolute truth when it comes to hedge funds. Hedge funds will intentionally know, they know somebody in that company. They will get a little piece of information that they want. They know somebody in the media. They say, hey, media friend, somebody that I know in the company said this. They're going to then put it out in the media and portray it in a manner that is not going to be exactly factual, but it's going to be a manner of spinning it in whatever direction they want. Could be up or down. We see it happen all the time. They manipulate the whole entire market down. Could happen for a day, could happen for a week, maybe a month or two. Whatever it is, they are intentionally sending these messages out there. That's why paying attention to the media is not the best idea. I love Twitter because it's got information instantly. We discussed it last night, how I'll be listening to or reading something on Twitter and I know the information. Then my dad, a couple of days later, will say, hey, on CNBC, I heard this. And I'm like, well, I knew that 2 days ago. And the way CNBC portrays it isn't actually entirely truthful. It's just the reality of what we see. Hey, Tomer. Thank you. Love your content. Never miss a video. I appreciate that. Thank you. What do you think about TSLL stock, Tesla 1.5? I like it actually. I haven't bought into it yet just because by the time I learned more about it, we were on this upward trend. But for TSLL, for me, when we do get that next pullback, I will start looking at that and I will probably add some to it. I'll keep you guys posted on that. But I do like TSLL. That leveraged stock. It's nice. Definitely riskier for sure. So again, not financial advice. It's riskier, but I would venture to look into it. Kevin, I live in the Jersey Shore and Teslas are really coming on strong. Still buying shares, so the lows are good, even though it doesn't feel it doesn't feel too good. Yeah, it's good, and I've heard that from a lot of people. For me, I go to the gym. At my gym, there's always been one Tesla there. Recently, there's now a second one. Talking with a lot of different people all over the place, Teslas are becoming more and more prevalent in a lot of places that these people are. Nowadays it's going to become more the norm. Think about some of the marketing that Elon has done as well. People say that Tesla doesn't market. Maybe they should. But Elon has a lot of friends who are in the media, could be in the music industry. Obviously, Kanye was a questionable one, but he's got friends that are out there in those industries. Guess what you hear about in a lot of songs nowadays? People singing about Teslas. People listen to music, they hear about the Tesla in the music, they're going to go out and buy one. That is a marketing strategy that a lot of people don't understand, and Elon's got that down. So this has nothing to do with Tesla, but thought it might be funny break. From the words of Ron Burgundy, if you were a hot dog, would you eat yourself? Normally, yes. I am trying to get back into my fitness shape where I was before. So once I get there, I would absolutely eat myself as a hot dog for sure. That's funny. Yes. So the stock market is rigged. Yes and no. It's rigged for anybody who plays it like a casino. So if you're in here swing trading, it's basically rigged. Long term doesn't matter. It's still going to be fundamentals. A company who is doing strong fundamental growth, regardless of how it's manipulated, is still going to do well in the long term, regardless. Think about the fact that in 2018, there were a lot of shorts out there intentionally trying to bury Tesla, and they couldn't succeed because Tesla was just that good of a company. So long term, it doesn't matter. Fundamentals will win out every time, regardless of how rigged the near term market is. Marty, love to see Tesla open a new mega pack factory in Europe. The Ukraine war has turbocharged European energy independence. I think we're going to see one for sure. I would love to see Ukraine get one, despite all the, I don't know, despite the connections that are going on, questions as to whether, the validity of all the money that we're sending over to Ukraine and where it's going. I think Europe is ripe for it, and I think they do very well. So between either Indonesia, Australia, and Europe, a mega pack factory in both areas, I think would be awesome. Yes, Marty, exactly. Market is rigged, but for long-term holders, eventually win. Absolutely. Yeah, TSLL. I don't know about the TSLL holding. Just like I got into SQQQ, just because it was something I wanted to test, and I made a little bit of money on it, and I just have one share just to monitor it. But I'm sort of a alerting thing. It is my we'll call it my FAFO account, my F around and find out account. And that's kind of what I'm doing right now in that is I have a few things in there that I'm just testing. So I'll probably end up doing that with TSL also, is just testing to see how that's going to go. Because sometimes the leveraged accounts, if and I don't know, I think it's based on options. Sometimes there's the decay, the I don't know if it's beta decay or whatever it is in those. Again, I'm not as well versed in those, so I apologize. But sometimes you have decay on those that you lose some of it. And yeah, And for sure, yes, the downs are as big as the ups, and when you magnify it, it becomes even more painful, especially considering that Tesla has a beta of 2.0. This is good to know. Famous short seller Carson Block said he had never shorted Tesla, even though he has a few issues with Elon's timeline. And I mean, even Elon has issues with Elon's timeline, especially when it comes to FSD. Obviously, he's said that it was harder than he thought, and they've had to scrap it a few times. But his production timeline has been pretty spot on. Um, so I gotta say that at least when it comes to production, he's been right there. Even with a bunch of the headwinds that we saw from COVID. Yeah, can't open in Ukraine right now. Yeah, we'll become a target. That'd be a ways down the road. Yeah, Poland maybe. That's actually not a bad idea. Poland, Hungary, somewhere around there may not be a bad idea to get one going. And don't forget, there's so much stuff that they have to discuss about logistics. What's going to happen there? It's got to discuss it with the countries, and then then breaking ground. Like even Mexico, they want to pop that up in 9 months, which is awesome and aggressive, and I think they can do it. But a mega pack factory is going to be. They might be able to do it quicker, just because it's not the same. And Elon said it's a lot easier to produce the mega packs, but yeah, it could be the same problem. And then do they have the batteries for it? Having the supplies that they need to scale that quickly. Oh, and Karav, here we go. Just updated my numbers at 441,000 now. I think the analyst consensus is 428. Karav, is that deliveries or production for you there? Let me see. AYMR, I work for a utilities company intern, but we are invest in a huge project in battery storage. That's big. So, one of the things that a lot of people don't realize is the disruption that's going on out there. It's not just EVs. When you're disrupting energy, that's massive. That's why the Saudis, we saw, $161 billion last year in profits. They understand it's coming. They know this is their basically swan song. They want to squeeze out as much as they possibly can. And they're already starting to invest in the future of energy in other areas. Oil is not going to go away entirely. Oil is still going to be around for a long time, forever, if in many areas it's going to be around. But as far as energy goes, what's going out there. Now you look at the electrical grid and how old the electrical grid is here in the US. That needs massive disruption going on. When you see a lot of companies out there, and it's something that we see in legacy auto, you can tell an area is ripe for disruption when you see people tacking on fees of random sorts because they can't make any extra money elsewhere. Their payroll is going up every single year. They give all their employees raises. They lay off people. They try to do different things with technology to automate stuff. Eventually, they hit a wall and they can't do much more to squeeze out those profits. So they have to come on with new ways of charging people. I see it happen with my company. We come up with new fees and stuff. Retail is harder, but when you see all these new fees coming out, I'm here in Connecticut, New England, we've got Eversource, and Eversource just keeps on cranking up things, and they've got fees and all sorts of unnecessary stuff that you're like, why am I getting charged so much money for this? I'm grateful because I live in a town that has their own utility company, but even my prices have gone up a little bit. It's maddening, and you can tell that those are the times that it's ripe for disruption. Elon discussing himself about how he wants to come up with, his own little town. It's going to be a self-sustaining town that's going to be completely off the grid. Having your one little self off the grid is one thing. Having an entire town off the grid, being able to run by itself, that's going to be an eye opener for a lot of people. And when people in that little town area start discussing how little they are paying for electricity, whether it's solar, even people now who have solar who are on the grid, and how little they're paying, there's going to be a lot of people, especially if we get into this recession in 2024, where people are going to be like, well, where can I save money? And they're going to start seeing that, oh, if I have solar, I don't need my electric bill being $300 a month. I could pay $100 a month. And I might actually be able to get money back during those times. That is going to be a massive eye opener. That is when energy is really going to start taking off. Listening, 9L, great YouTube channel. Thank you for your awesome work. Thank you. I appreciate that. And then, yeah, Smarty, later this year, Cybertrucks are rolling billboards. Absolutely. You just have that eye opener coming out, man. And that's the thing is like I've got my Cybertruck on order also, and the van is the one I really want. As soon as Elon mentioned the van, I'm like, I'll buy a Cybertruck for sure, but I only need one vehicle. And if I can get a cyber van, that's going to be hot because that's going to be the same eye opener thing that we see with the Cybertruck. Luke, do you still think Tesla will reach 20 million vehicles by 2030? They need to be pumping a few more factories over the next 2 years, at least in my opinion. But let's see. I don't have them forecast for 20 million. I have them forecast for 20 million in 2032 is when I have them forecast to hit that. It's like between 2031 and 2032 is they'll kind of hit that number, at least for a run rate. And when we look at the next gen platform, that's going to be the game changer because Elon said that they're probably going to need roughly 10 factories to be able to hit this. But if they end up having out their, you know, these factories that are pumping out a lot more vehicles a lot faster in a smaller footprint, and Mexico is going to be huge. And if they have this many vehicles coming out, they might end up going with more like micro factories. So, like, the UK is not going to need a factory that's pumping out 2 million vehicles a year. They might need one that's going to do 500,000, maybe a million. So it could be a smaller footprint just in an area for logistics purposes to kind of take care of that area. So I think after they'll probably have Mexico will be a big one. Probably Asia Pacific will have another big one. And we may see a third big one coming out. And then after that, it'll probably be a couple of smaller ones. That's probably all they need. Um, and so for me, I think that they're going to get the majority of their vehicles coming out of probably six, seven, maybe eight factories, and then a couple other ones that are going to be sporadic, littler ones to pump those out. I think that's going to end up being it. But yeah, I think they're going to be a little bit behind. Maybe they surprise us. Maybe they do end up hitting there. But I factor things on a conservative level, so I think we're going to hit there about 2032. Let's see. Let's see. Want to talk about disruption? I did not realize, not being a techie, the meaning of Optimus video at Investor Day. Watch Dr. Know It All. It's a big deal. I do need to watch Dr. Know It All. I got to reach out to him. I want to see about having him on the channel also. He's got some great stuff. If you guys don't watch him, definitely do. And I have not seen the video about that, but yeah, AI and Optimus, that's huge. One of the things that we need to remember too is first place Optimus is going is in Tesla's own factories to help them. So that's going to cut down on the cost. This next gen vehicle is cutting costs by 50% just on the manufacturing process alone. You start putting Optimus into the mix, who is going to be doing a lot of things to cut out some of the labor, that cuts out even more costs. So all of a sudden, we're now producing vehicles that you're selling for $25,000 to $30,000, but you've got 30 to 35% margins on these vehicles. That's insane. And I don't know what Dr. Know-It-All went through, but I'm going to take a look at his video as well because there's so many more other implications well beyond just that little piece as well. Let's see. Phil McMahon, I'm living in Connecticut. Eversource is larcenous. Absolutely. It drives me nuts. Where in Connecticut are you? I'm over in Norwich. So that's why I'm grateful I don't have to deal with Eversource, but I did in the past. It's yeah, not cool, man. And they're such a pain. One of my buddy who has his Model Y, he and his wife have them. When he got his, they got solar panels put on the roof. It was just, hey, it made sense for them to get that. They're going to be charging more at home, save a little bit of cost on the expense. So he got the solar panels. When they got hers, he wanted to add solar panels to it, but they had to take out a whole different permit, and Eversource nearly made it impossible for him to go and get extra solar panels for this. And I'm like, why? And it's just a racket. It's not fun. Not Leela Vice. I like that name. Elon's been pumping South Korea. I haven't heard him recently pumping it. I know that South Korea and Indonesia were top two. Somebody said that there was some mention at Investor Day of Indonesia not being one of the finalists anymore. Kind of a bummer for me. Don't know the reasons why, and I don't know the validity of that. But I think Asia Pacific is going to be the next region we hear about a factory in. just don't know where. But South Korea does sound like it's a place. And if for you guys who don't know, South Korea, they're like one of the largest shareholders. They have this shareholder group in South Korea that just is crazy mad about buying shares of Tesla. So I mean, they're literally bought in. Lang, did you buy a bit more of Tesla the last 2 days, about 166? I add every day, my $20 every day. If we dip under 150, I'll bump it up to $25 a day, but I have not been adding extra just because I do think that we're going to come down further. Um, so I still want to add every day either way, just in case we don't come down further. But I do think we're going to pull down further and I'll add more when we get down there. Marty, Tim, when do you think Optimus will be assisting in Tesla factories? I'm thinking Mexico with the new manufacturing process tailor made for bots. I think you're right. That was actually my timeline was going to be about 2025 that we would see Optimus start coming out in factories. And timing wise, that makes absolute sense. So yes, I think Mexico will be the first place we see Optimus. If nothing else, maybe moving carts of parts from one point to another is going to be the most realistic thing that I think we see them do initially, just because we've seen them do the things in their videos, which is great, but can they do that consistently? Obviously, repetitive motions they're going to learn. If they're going to be using the same technology that they're using for FSD, the more repetition they have, the more data they're going to come in, the better it's going to get, and the faster it will get better. So they're going to probably have it doing the same things and then start to push it outside of that. But if they're trying to stay up with efficiency, they don't want a robot that's pushing a cart of parts and all of a sudden it trips or something and it spills all those parts everywhere. That's inefficient. So they're going to want it to do something very, very basic at first. But hey, 2 years down the road, a lot can happen. We've seen AI growing significantly in other areas in a scary way recently. So definitely possible. Let me see. Will the crappy economy macros prevent Tesla stock from rising even after Cybertruck hits the roads? I can't buy Tesla until the stock rises. So the way I'm looking at it is going over the macro environment. Looking at the macro, I'm as of right now, based upon what we know, Fed's probably going to raise rates until June and we'll probably pause in July. Come July, we'll probably see a rally in the stock price. Whether we fall down to fill that gap at 114 before then or not has yet to be seen. I don't know. We might. But I think after July, we'll probably see a nice rally coming because of the Fed pausing. Historically, that's what we've always seen. So we could see a rally into the end of the year. Again, I have the stock price right now around 240 for the end of the year for a price target. So I think we're gonna, finish much higher than we closed, at the end of last year. We were like right over, it was like 110, 120 at the end of 2022. So we're going to be basically double. I think we're going to 2x in the stock price at the end of this year. So yes, we'll see a higher stock price. But then if the Fed pivots in Q1 or Q2 of 2024, we could see it come down. So Cybertruck coming out could be good timing, could be during that rally. We could see an even bigger rally because of that. Volume production hitting sometime around Q1. Timing will then end up coming out like, hey, timing with volume production and the Fed pivoting, it's way up in the air. I don't think it's going to prevent. I don't think the economy is going to prevent it from running. I think we'll get a nice bump. I think timing of it all will just determine how far we run. Oh, Windsor, yeah. We have one of my company has a company in was in South Windsor, now East Hartford. They just moved like 5 minutes down the road. That's cool. Actually, the van I wanted to buy is actually up in Hartford, so I got to go take a look at it. Oh, Ledger, yeah. No kidding. Wow, yeah, it's right next to me. Yeah, right 10 minutes from both of the casinos here. It's awesome. Small world. Indonesia and Malaysia both have free trade agreements with India. That's another thing too. You have to remember that when it comes to the EV tax credit, you have to have a free trade agreement with the US, and Indonesia does. I think South Korea does also. So that would also make sense. So any country that Tesla is going to be building a factory in the Asia Pacific region would most likely have to have a free trade agreement with the US. It makes no sense for them to do otherwise. Mystic Pizza. I've only had it once. Ironically, I've only had it once down there. But Connecticut is the pizza capital of the world, so there's a lot of options. This is a good point, and makes more sense to replace expensive U.S. workers with Optimus than Mexico. True, but if you don't have to hire them in the first place, that makes even more sense. One of the things a lot of people don't realize is the onboarding process. The cost of an employee isn't what you see they get paid. So if an employee gets paid $15 an hour, it's not costing the company $15 an hour to employ that employee. It usually costs them probably double that. Probably costs them $30 an hour to employ them between hiring them, all the benefits that they pay out, if they do like 401k plans, things like that. All of that stuff gets factored in the back end that a lot of times people don't see. So, think about any employee, it's going to be basically double. Karav, Tim, what do you have growing faster over the next couple of years, EPS or deliveries? Ooh, I'd have to look at my valuation model. Because typically, I've got EPS actually. Now that I think about it, I have EPS because I have costs coming down while deliveries are going up. So just the deliveries going up in that S curve fashion at the same time that costs are coming down means that the S curve for the EPS is going up faster, just mathematically. So yeah, EPS goes up faster. Milan. Oh yeah, we went over a bunch. I'm actually going to be getting off in a minute too. I I know. I told you guys like I was like, let me keep these short so that people could watch like a quick 15 to 20-minute video. But like these conversations with you guys are so good. I just have to make sure I go to bed on time. I just love chatting with you guys. I should have done this sooner. Just having evening live streams is phenomenal with you guys. Have you heard any updates on Starship orbital launch attempt date? I thought I heard June, maybe. I could be wrong. I thought the last I heard was June. Maybe I'm wrong on that. If you guys know, definitely share. But I thought it was June. Let me see. Tesla should get in the pizza delivery business. They will when they have robo taxis. I have no doubt we're going to have food delivery services with robo taxis coming out. Felipe, hi Tim. My average is 231. Still buying under my average. I accumulate shares under my average price. Same here. Mine's now at 226. I should be getting my 61st share mathematically. If the stock price doesn't move, I'll have it next week. My 61st share. Now, it kind of stinks because I want to have 200 by the end of the year. Problem is, I was doing the math on it, and when I first started, I needed 3 shares a week based upon how much I put in. That wasn't realistic. I would need the stock price to come down. Again, I'm not rooting for it to come down, except for the fact that I want to buy it for a lot less. But I'm saving up my cash for that pullback to add more. But yeah, my cost basis is now 226, and I've got just under 61 shares. Yeah, Karov, love these live streams. Me too. This is way better with you guys. Let me see. Oh yeah, pizza with him, but beers with Sandy Monroe. Oh my god, I wish. Like next time, like that's got to be awesome. Hanging out with Sandy down at Clive must have been an absolute blast. I cannot wait till I get my opportunity to go do that. Marty, oh, you live in the Boston area. Hearing that EverSource is planning on doubling their electrical capacity in the near term. Yeah, yeah, every time EverSource says that they're going to be doubling anything or whatever, like they go up on their rates because they're like, oh, well, we needed, all the storms that came in and we had to, have the crews out there to fix the storms. I'm like, dude, you budgeted that in. You should have already had that accounted for. Yet you're going to go up on anyway. This year we barely even got a winter and they're still going to go up on rates. They always come up with an excuse to go up on rates. It's BS. Starlink plus Tesla partnership. We're going to see it. Obviously, we know with T-Mobile, they are doing the partnership with Starlink, which should be happening either end of this year, beginning of next year. And I have no doubt that it's going to be tied into Tesla at some point. And especially with the van and Cybertruck, the Cybertruck is going to be for job site utility. That's the thing is like so many people are giving Tesla crap. Even Adam Jonas, he's a big bull. And he came out and he's thinking that Tesla's only going to sell 50,000 Cybertrucks per year because of the fact that it's going to be more of a lifestyle truck than an actual functional vehicle. Elon's like, that's not real at all. Like they're specifically making this for functionality purposes. Obviously, we want to see it hit the road. The company that I'm with, we do construction, retail, and rentals. I'll have customers who I want to get the feedback from. Anybody who does go out and get one, Give me the real true feedback. That's what I want to know. These contractors, sure, it's going to be great for the lifestyle truck. We know that's going to sell well there, but I want to see it on job sites. You see one drive onto a job site, as we talked about before, being, just a mobile billboard. You go to a job site with a truck like that, it's going to turn some heads. People are going to ask questions. When they start asking questions and the owner of that vehicle says, well, it looks awesome, but the functionality of it can do all of these things, that's going to be the important piece for me. And so, and again, if you put Starlink in it, then these guys are on job sites because a lot of times these guys are on job sites with phones that are crap. They're in areas that don't get good service. So if you have Starlink hooking them up so they can communicate with their employees on a large job site, it's going to be awesome. Oh, you are getting hit up there. Yeah, I knew some areas were getting hit with snow. We're supposed to get it here. It just started changing over. We were on that border. We're really not going to get much by the shore. But that's the crazy thing about Connecticut. It's a tiny little state, but where I'm at, we got mostly rain today. My brother up in the northern hills in the western part of the state, you got like a foot of snow. So it's wild that it can happen just an hour and a half away. Yes, the Tesla RV. So I'll start with the van. If they can take the semi and pump out, and I don't know if you guys have seen the picture of it on Twitter about the RV on the semi chassis. That'd be hot. That'd be real hot. I would totally get that. Uh, Honey, I'm happy the new battery plant being built in my town was just announced yesterday, but not sure if it would be happy because it's for Volkswagen. Oh, that. I mean, so it's announced up there. So that means you're in Canada. I'm happy with it. So the way I look at it is, yes, I'm a huge Tesla bull, but it's all about transitioning the world to renewable energy. And as Elon said, he can't do it themselves. Tesla's not going to be the only one who can do it. They need everybody else out there. So if Volkswagen's going to invest in this and help the world transition over, more power to them. And I wish them all the best of luck. So, I'll be happy for them. I just want to make sure that they do it right. Because the problem is where you start seeing things like with the Fords, if you start putting out EVs or things when it comes to batteries and energy that are not good quality, then people are like, "Oh, then that's not good." And they're like, "Oh, see, it's not that great," and it gives them that sour taste, and you don't want to have that. So I just hope they do it right and they do a good job with it. Let me see. So we're getting hit with the atmospheric river, and yeah, my parents are in San Diego, and like going over there, we go to the San Diego River, which is really just a dry riverbed that you walk across, and it's like flowing like rapids, like you're not walking across it. So the weather has been definitely wild. I mean, considering we didn't even get a winter this year, I think there was 2 days where it was cold, and one day we had some snow, and then March hit, and all of a sudden snow is all over the place. Like we're expecting another storm next week apparently too. All right. Well, we're hitting the hour mark, folks. This has been awesome as usual. Tomorrow night I will not be on. I have my son tomorrow night. If I'm back early enough, I may jump on quick just to do a realistically probably a 15 to 20 minute one just to brush up on the day's news because we've got PPI coming out tomorrow. So pay attention to that in the morning. Um, we'll see how the market moves after that. So I may just jump on quickly for that. But I'll see you on Thursday and Friday. Same thing, 6:30. This is awesome. I want to keep doing this. I love having these conversations with you guys. So I will see you guys tomorrow quickly, and then definitely on Thursday again. And if there's any guests you guys want to have on, let me know. I'm going to be reaching out. I'll probably have Brian on here. Going to reach out to Jen, Alexandra, all the usual suspects, and try to get them on here. And I'm going to reach out to some new ones too, like Dr. Know It All, Peggy. I'll try to have on. He's probably have to do a weekend with him, but otherwise, I will see you guys all later. You guys have a great one.